Okay, so we're back with another episode of the Shift Handover. Today we're going to talk about the evolution of the industry. Obviously, Dan and I have been doing it for a while. We mentioned on the last episode that we've got a combined 50 years. And that's a genuine 50 years, by the way. A lot of people exaggerate the time they've done in security. I mean, so many people say, I've done it, or they've done a little bit. Genuine 50 years experience. So, we're going to talk about the evolution of the industry. So, where should we start, mate?
We're going to sound like old men in this one, aren't we?
We are old men. We are old men.
I'm 23. What are you on about?
They can't see the slippers we're wearing.
But we're definitely we're gonna sound like Uncle Albert from Only Fools and Horses. Back in our day,
Yeah.
I think it's 2026. Times change, and what would be our preferences of what maybe if I was working a venue, owning a venue, what I would want to see might not even work today. Might not make any money. We spoke about it in the last episode. If a venue's going to start turning away people for wearing trainers, it's not going to be open very long.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately. And I think what door staff wear has definitely changed, because I think if I was to be employed by a security company now, told you start at this mainstream venue in the Bournemouth town centre at 10 o'clock, and I turned up in a shirt and tie, I'll be told to go home.
I know.
Sorry, you're too smart for us.
I know. I despair at that.
It's true though, isn't it?
I hate to hear that, but you're right.
It's true.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is why I don't think I could work in this industry full time anymore. Like we said last time, I can do a job. I can cover work here and there, do that job to a certain level. But I think I've never brought one of those security high-vis vests.
Have you not?
The old ones that, when they first came in, the cotton ones, but the latest ones where they're kind of like police style
Another one.
body jackets,
Yeah.
and you got your body worn camera and everything else on there. And I accept I think the body worn camera itself is actually a really good tool.
Now.
It's a really good tool because, mate, stop there. I'm recording you now.
Yeah. They're needed.
Fantastic. I wish I had that 15, 20 years ago. But it's the look. It is the look, isn't it? It's not for I want to be the concierge when I'm on the front door.
Yeah.
I want the shirt and tie.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder getting female attention when you're not wearing a shirt and tie, let's be honest.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think the attire, and we talk about evolution, but the attire really depends on where you're working.
Yeah,
the venue. I understand high vis. I understand why it came into effect. From a CCTV point of view, being able to identify who's security and who's not is important. So I get it. I understand why it's there. It's important, but I also do agree that appearance standards are very important. And we touched on it before, but to get respect, be respected in your role, you need to be smart. You need to show up and look the part. And again, I think that is something which, if you think about it, even before my time, when you're talking about guys who did the door in the 60s and 70s, they wore bow ties.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that? Still wearing bow ties. They were dinner suits and bow ties. Yes, they then evolved into bomber jackets and bow ties. But before the bomber jackets came to that, they were wearing suit and bow ties. They could have been going to a posh dinner, posh restaurant. And then the bomber jackets came, then the ties went, then the T-shirts come in, and it just went to a different level. And then the early 2000s, it started to smarten up again. People started wearing suits and smart jackets. Crombies.
Yeah.
And then it just dipped again. I think the high vis thing made a big difference. Yeah. But even with high vis, you can still operatives can look very smart.
Yeah.
My beef is the Nike trainers, the tracksuit bottoms, the non-uniformity.
And we'll come back onto the high vis in a minute, because I know we've got very different experiences of when that came in. But it's also how someone conducts themselves. I have heard very recently a doorman say, I ain't opening the door for you, to a customer. Now me, for multiple different reasons, I'm opening that door for them. One, because it's polite. It's just being a genuinely nice person. But also, hi guys, how you getting on? Is it busy down there? Oh, who's down there? Oh, it's okay. Oh, what about, where else have you been? If I'm being brutally honest, I don't actually care. I'm just gauging their responses. And if they're friendly and they're happy, and I can have a positive 2-minute interaction with them, one, they go into my venue in a better mood. Two, if they're grumpy after me being nice to them, then okay, maybe I have to, guys, keep an eye on that one, because he might just be that kind of person.
Yeah.
But, so you kind of, you're getting ahead of yourself, and I think it's really important to have that concierge feel. I see that as not my most important role, but my first role, especially when I'm on the front door, is,
So were you taught that, or did you just do that for your own back the door thing?
I was taught that.
Yeah, that's good.
I was taught that. I was also taught the alternative, because it was a generation of people that had mixed views. There were some people who didn't even want to display their badge. So when high vis came along, I imagine they had a meltdown. But yeah, I think you've made this point off air before. You're controlling who comes in your venue.
Yeah, to me, the front door control is imperative to a good night, to a good venue. As well as I do, you walk anywhere and someone stands in your way, it makes you think twice. So a door supervisor that stands, you don't have to say anything to begin with, but if you get a group of guys come up, they're instantly like, are we going to get... You see their pace change. Are we going to get in? Is this guy going to be friendly, or is he not? As soon as you see that little... They've acknowledged me, then it's, how you doing? Good evening. What you been up to? Where you been? You local? You may not even need to get to that. It might be, hi mate.
Yeah.
How many of you is there? 5? Yeah, no worries. Bring them in. Because you can tell straight away they're really nice people. You may not even have to go down the next step. But what you've done, you've shown them you're in charge. Not in an arrogant way. It's just, this is my venue. I decide who's coming in. Because ultimately, I'm the one that's got to get you out. And that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have never, ever not succeeded in asking someone to leave a venue, whether it's verbally or physically. Doesn't mean that I have not had bad situations, because I have, but there is something about knowing that you are in control of that venue. And we don't get it as much now, but when I was working on a regular basis, I would quiz, if there were 2 or 3 guys, very polite, but I would take the time and I'd ask them where they're from. I'd start that engagement. And of course, some people plan it, they organise it, they come in groups, little groups.
Split up into twos.
But I was so sharp with my thinking at the time that I very rarely they'd get through. And I'd be like, come on, I know there's... I tell you what, let's stand here and keep conversing, and we'll wait for the next 3 to come over the hill, shall we? What do you mean? Don't know what you're about.
When they're in golfing uniform, it's usually a giveaway, isn't it?
Yeah,
when two people turn up in golfing trousers.
I could just tell. I could just tell, and it was in any town. And I'd be like, wait, okay, are these guys with you? Yeah, all right, Dave. Don't fuck. Do you know what I mean? But you could just tell. But you had to be on it. Now I see groups coming in, pubs, groups coming in, and then you wonder why 20 minutes later you've got a mass brawl and you're understaffed.
Yeah. And
front door procedures. My point, sorry, Dan, is that They are so important. And the reason why I asked you, did someone teach you that? Because that is so important. It's something that doesn't get taught now. It doesn't even get taught on SIA training, to open a door and be proactive with front door operating procedures.
And that's why we're here doing this.
Absolutely.
Because
Good practice.
there are things that we might even do without even thinking.
I'm sure we do.
And we forget because it's
Absolutely.
just ingrained in our habits at this point.
Yeah.
But coming on to the implementation of high-vis, I just remember being stood at my regular venue in Poole. Me and the regular team I was working with at the time. Area manager came down with 4 high-vis vests. Put that on. Why? Because I told you to. It's like, okay, don't really want to, because I liked how I looked at, I liked looking smart. It was part of the reason what I looked forward to on a Friday or Saturday night. But you were part of it. You were part of the meetings and the discussions. You had a much senior role in the security industry at the time. So, explain to myself and the viewers why high-vis came in.
I mean, I feel the same as you. I'm not a fan of... I agree with high-vis, but I'm not personally a fan of wearing high-vis.
Yeah.
I like to be, like you say, sharp, smart, and just look the part. Sharp, smart, look the part. Oh,
I like that.
But yeah, no, so high-vis, yeah. Basically, there was an incident in Bournemouth Town Centre where someone got attacked with a knife. And I remember very clearly sitting with police licensing, and they were identifying what had happened in this situation. And it was quite difficult to decipher who was security and who wasn't on this incident. And I think it had been something that had been going on for quite a while, but it's just this incident was massive because this hadn't happened before.
But they were wearing the bands they were wearing the armbands at the time, weren't they?
Well, they should have been. They should have been.
Okay.
But as you know, a lot of people don't. They stick it in their pocket, or they were looping them on their belts and stuff.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
So the local licensing turned around and said, right, okay, as of now, as a condition of license, you have to wear the door staff have to wear high vis, and of course that solved that problem. It solved that problem, or it certainly helped. It doesn't mean I like wearing it, and I agree with you. But then what happened was, licensing are very powerful in the day, and when you have a 12 o'clock venue and you want to suddenly turn it into a 2 o'clock, you have to go through licensing conditions, application, and they can make it quite awkward for you. So you either play ball and say, okay, we're going to make sure all our door staff are in high vis, or we're going to keep fighting this, because it wasn't like a national legal requirement.
Okay.
But if you didn't play ball, and why would you not, really? Because it is safety.
Yes.
I mean, high vis is a good idea. I mean, the customers can see you; they can identify you. We can see, police can see you on on CCTV. So it is a good idea. But I think the misconception for door staff, and the reason why they would get upset about it, was, and I know, and this isn't a degradation to any security, but it then suddenly put them in the security guarding image. And I think door staff with their ego thought, we don't want to look like security guards. That's what they wear at Tesco's. That's what they wear at Spa. Yeah. We don't do that.
We're not mother care.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the reality is, it is a good idea. It's not for people like you or I that want to look smart.
And I think, for a long period of my career, I did wear the yellow vest when it was still shirt and clip-on tie underneath that vest. You can still make that look smart. Of course. You can still hold yourself with black trousers. You can still hold yourself a certain way. But I guess, when would that have been? 2007, 2008, around that time?
Yeah, around then, yeah.
Around then. They didn't know what door staff were going to look like in 2026.
No, that's true. That's true.
And yes, they're all wearing the high vis now, the high vis coats and the vests. But it's not smart, is it? It's not. It's not. It's not what I would deem to be presentable. Do you think that decision that you referred to, bringing in high vis, was the first domino to end up to where we are with the standards of presentation today? Or do you think that actually, just even with that decision to go towards high vis, we could have done something different to make sure the culture remained to a certain standard?
I think we can't put too much emphasis on high vis. I think that it comes down to security providers losing interest or not, upholding those standards, because those standards start with the timekeeping, communication, proper radio skills. You mentioned earlier, and you're absolutely right, if you're on a 9 o'clock shift, you turn up at 10:02, or you turn up at 15 minutes to. You get a site familiarisation. You see who's in the venue. People are rocking up now, bang on the button, quickly grabbing their jacket, putting it on the door. Again, you're encouraging a erratic state. You want to go onto that door, know exactly who's in there, a brief from the daytime, and calm.
Yeah.
Calm. Go around, do your head count. You got your clickers, do your head count. A lot of people, there's a lot of door stuff that they don't even have clickers.
There's a lot of venues that don't hold them.
It bemuses me, mate.
No. How many are in your venue? Don't know.
The
licensee's got to pay responsibility for that, though.
No, the licensee is responsible for all of it.
Yeah.
Because legally, the licensee is responsible for everything. So yes, at any point, you need to know how many people are in your bar. And if you really go back and you really want a safe bar, you also got to think about, the percentage. You don't want a venue of 1,000 people with 80% men, 20% females.
Oh, they're the worst nights ever.
All the testosterone, it's going to be a disaster.
Even if it's 50 people in that venue, if 40 of them are men.
Exactly.
So
these are all the things which, and I'm not saying all, because I'm not going to every venue and, but I've seen it over the years that we are losing sight of being proactive and becoming reactive.
Yes.
Let's employ some lumps that can take people out. No, hang on. Let's have those lumps, but let's have people that do what you do, operate themselves properly on the front door and stop the crap coming in. Because that's what it is.
I also question that to a point, and I don't even think a lot of people think about lumps. I think it's just, do you have a badge? Can you be here for 12 o'clock? You tick my quota for my licensing conditions.
Yeah.
I think you, not all, and I don't want to pin every licensee under the same brush. And I want to stress that I am not as involved in the community today as I would have been 10 years ago. I know one or two licensees. You probably know a couple still.
Yeah.
But I don't know what happens in the middle of Bournemouth Town Centre every Friday, Saturday night. I couldn't tell you who the licensees are. I couldn't tell you the names of the head doormen. So anything I say, anything you say, we might be out of touch of what's actually going on. I'm only talking from my observations of when I have nights out. Very rarely I'm out on my out past 2 o'clock in the morning on a night out. So, but my view is as well is that a lot of the standards have come down. And it really is a pet hate of mine when I see a licensee ask someone to leave the venue and the doorman's watching the licensee do it. Especially, listen, if the licensee knows the regular and it's a conflict resolution thing and it's done in a nice, that's okay. But when the customer is showing some sort of aggression, what you're paid there to protect the licensee and the bar staff.
Absolutely.
I would take that as a dent on my profession and actually as someone criticising my ability to do my job. If a customer was showing aggression, potential violence, and the licensee was standing in front of me.
Absolutely.
And I've worked in bars where the bar staff are coming out and kicking people out, and my first couple of weeks there, I was like, keep your bar staff behind the bar. This is my job.
Yeah.
But what if you get hurt? I get hurt. This is my job. And it's that taking the accountability, which I think a lot of operatives today are just happy to stand back and let the manager or the licensee do it. They're there to earn their money, and which is a shame.
It's a shame, and that's something, unfortunately, which is evident through the security industry in general. You got to think about all these retail security now that are told to allow not to intervene if someone shoplifts, things like that. When we talk about the evolution, one thing it is important to point out, though, is that the training has massively improved. So what I mean is the SAA, whether everyone has their opinions on it, but there was no training before that. There was training, but it wasn't compulsory. Yeah. So at least there is training now, and this training is getting more and more, they're bolting more onto it all the time. So as the industry has evolved, I think that the base training is there, the conflict management training is there, physical intervention training is there, which was not there many years ago. But what I don't see as much of, and the feedback I get, is that in-house training companies are not doing as much as they could. So again, the reason why I asked you about who said about opening the door, when I first started, and I mentioned him in the first episode, when I worked for Frontline, a guy called Pete Boucher, he used to regularly do a thing called a personal skills course. And it's something that I adopted when I started to manage and run my own security company. So we would get people in and we would get them to do the basics, do some role play, some front door operating procedures, how to use the radio, the pro words, over, out, roger, get them to use those things. So report writing. It's easy to give someone an instant book and say, there you go, make sure this is up to date every night. But do they know what to write? Do they know what sort of detail to write it in? Do they know to do a check every half an hour of something and log it? This is all what could be seen as hard work, but it's best practice. You know, you don't appreciate it until a month later or 2 months later or a year later when you say, right, we've got to go to court now for an incident. What happened on Thursday the 14th? Oh, where's my incident? Oh, there we go. Yeah, I remember that. And Dave was involved and Sarah was involved. And this is what we did. This is what they said. That's why we did what we did, because he did this or he pulled his arm or he did. It just jogs that memory.
Yeah. And it's so important. And I wonder how many doormen working today, especially of today's generation, and I don't want to criticise a whole generation because I have met some fantastic doormen.
There's some brilliant doormen.
That you know, how many doormen today understand that actually that incident book is potentially a court document?
That's a good question. I'll see what people
say. Let me know in the comments if you what you think on that, because it's my timesheet. That's how I think a lot of people view it. This is my timesheet. This is the numbers. This is the capacity. This is the fire exit checks. I'm putting my initials on it.
Yeah.
They don't understand actually what they're putting their initials to as a court document potentially.
Absolutely.
And I think times change. You know, we can quite happily spend a lot of time sitting here wishing things were the way they were 15 years ago.
Yeah.
But I think we also have to accept that we come from a generation that doesn't exist anymore. Hence the name of the name of this channel, the Shift Handover, because we are handing over to new generations.
Yeah, and also take into account that, you know, the level of training has stepped up with, you know, lots of in light of terrorism attacks and things like that.
Yeah.
You know, they receive, you know, terror awareness training now. The first aid training is more enhanced. There's a lot of good training out there, and if you've got a good training provider, you know, you can go on the door now very well equipped. But the one thing you can never do, it's like a driving license, you can't train experience. So, you know, they can go with the ground knowledge and the paperwork, but the real training is only going to start when they get on that shift. And that then comes down to people like you or I, or a good mentor in that team that will take them under their wing and say, right, you know, They need to point out. They need to give them feedback. They need to critique.
Yeah.
They need to praise. They need to say, this is how we do it. You don't have to do it like I do it, but watch how I do it. There'll be things you'll take from me, things they take from you, things they take from him on her, and then you mould it into your job.
And it's funny, you just took the words out of my mouth, because the one thing I was thinking about was driving test.
Yeah.
Because when top up comes around, you'll come to renewal. I wonder how many people, especially, and we're talking about the new generation, but I think the older generation are actually more guilty of this. Oh, this training course, I just got to do it to get my badge. Let me get through this weekend. And it's kind of a tokenistic gesture of application to that training.
I agree.
And then it goes away.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying everyone does that. And you're right. I've been on some really good training and come away from it already having 15 years in the bank at that time, going, bloody hell, that was really good.
Yeah.
Really good. And I learned stuff from it. Shame I'm not doing the doors every week anymore.
Absolutely.
Might have been handy to learn this 15 years ago. So, but I think remaining teachable in anything you do.
Yes.
Remaining teachable. And it doesn't matter if you are from the current generation of practitioner or if you are from the old school, knowing that the world is changing. I may have an internal feeling about when the licensee lets someone in with tracksuit bottoms on. I hold on to it, and that exists. And maybe I'll talk, and we'll joke about it later. Especially if it's a licensee I've got a good relationship with, or my colleague. At the same time, it's 2026, and
Absolutely.
we have to let that stuff go. But I still think we have to balance in that, find the balance with having standards. Because just because we're letting people in with tracksuit bottoms just because we're letting people in with trainers, just because we're a little bit more tolerant now with drunk behaviour than we would have been when we had, 50 people queuing outside to get in, it doesn't mean that it's okay for us to turn up in trainers. It's okay.
It looks shit.
It does. It's awful.
It looks awful.
So bad.
When you are worse poorly addressed than the customers you're turning away, you've got a serious problem. I don't want someone turning to me and saying, "Look at the state of you, mate.
Yeah.
Who are you to tell me I'm not smart? Look at the state of you." And that's what you're getting at there sometimes. At least we could stand there and go, all right, you can't really say, you can call me fat, or you can call me bold, you can call me, whatever, but you can't say I'm not smart.
Yeah.
And that's the basis of why I'm refusing you. It's like turning someone away because you've had too much to drink, stood there being pissed. You've got to be in a position, not a moral high ground, but you've got to be in a position where you can, be able to say these things. And you can't do that if you stood there in, your gym trainers.
Yeah, and chewing gum, scrolling on your phone.
Worst things.
And you see it. You really do see it.
Worse than ever now.
And it's easy for people of our age who'll be watching this to go, "Oh, it's those 21-year-olds, it's those 22-year-olds," but it's not. Actually, I think there's plenty of people who are our age who are still doing the door, who have kind of let their standards come down as well.
Yeah.
And I think I'm not digging these people out necessarily, because actually, if the standards around you are dropping, it's easy to allow your own standards to drop.
You are the environment. You become the environment you're in.
We are human. And one term I've always heard, and this isn't a generational thing, this has been consistent through time, is the term jacket filler. I absolutely hate it. Because who are you to criticize someone who's just had their badge 5 minutes when you've got 5-10 years experience behind him? Help this person, help this guy, help this girl, help them develop.
Yeah, definitely.
I used to take pride in that. When I was working at a full-time venue, and our area manager would say, "Right, we've got someone who's going to join you guys next week. He's only had his badge a couple of weeks. He's young. I'm like, brilliant. This is fantastic.
Yeah.
Almost feeding my own ego. Don't get me wrong. It's
No, I know what you
it's
mean.
part of it. It's like fantastic, you know. And we alluded to this on the last episode. Where do we want someone who is overconfident or a shrinking violet? You know, what are we going to get? What kind of? How can we help this person? And then they go away, and you bump into them a couple of years later, and then they're head doorman of a venue. And it's like a Lion King moment to get quite deep about it. But it's being part of someone's journey.
Yeah.
It's so empowering, so rewarding. It's almost like you're leaving a legacy. And I don't think there's any of that anymore.
No. Well, I've
None of
always
that.
said it takes a good 4 or 5 years for someone to get the experience they need to, you're always learning.
Yeah.
But it takes a good 4 or 5 years of consistent work to really know the job.
Yeah.
If you've been doing it for 10, 15, 20 years, then you're very seasoned. The downside, of course, is that the longer you do it, your physicality, it's hitting that sweet spot. You got 15 years experience, you're still fit enough and able enough to do what you need to do.
Really.
That's it. It's getting that balance. But then going forward after that, then you got to think about where your strengths lie and where your weaknesses are, and you adapt. So you work at this bar instead of walkabout, or you don't work in a bar which is going to be very physical. You can move over to some of the places where you don't have to be quite so physical, and you can be more of that concierge, like you say.
Yeah.
But it takes time, and you're right. Jacket fill, I never liked that either. So many people used to write people off.
It's just so disrespectful because we were all starting out
Everyone,
in any job.
absolutely.
I just think I was lucky that I had some people around me. Don't get me wrong, this is something we'll come into shortly, that some of the things I was shown, I'm looking at today and think, oh my God.
Yeah.
But but the intention was to help me. They were showing me what they knew to be correct from their time. So these have been people probably from your generation, where certain restraints, quite rightly now, are outlawed.
Yeah.
And are awful especially with today's knowledge of what we know about the body and certain restraints. But the people from the generation before me didn't necessarily have the knowledge that we have today. So I still am thankful for them taking that time and investing in me and showing me stuff that I would never show someone now.
Yeah.
We talk about things like sleeper holds and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think we alluded to in the last episode, a lot of the advice, especially from my point of view, a lot of the advice I'm going to give to people have come from my own mistakes. In the late 2000s, I did use sleeper holds, and I can't. But today,
That's what you were taught.
Today, if I was working with someone and they use a sleeper hold, I would pull them apart. And I wish I had someone who, with the knowledge of today, come down on me.
But that's what they knew then, you see. That's what they knew.
And this is the evolution.
And they will say, well, that was better than punching someone in the face. So, and it wasn't until later when they, created the non-pain compliant way of doing things, which,
And also, we spoke about this in our last episode as well. When I came into the industry, I would have weighed about 11 stone.
Yeah.
So we're not all genetically gifted like you. So
Wow.
But all joking aside, those kind of restraints help me safely remove people that I wouldn't have been able to get out of a venue without them.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't justify using them, especially with today's knowledge. But you're right. I think just because something is wrong in 2026 doesn't necessarily make it wrong in other periods
definitely
of time.
not.
And I think it's important, especially if we're going to go on this journey of helping people develop their own skills and come into an industry that is dangerous, to actually we've got lots of positive things to tell people, and we've got lots
Absolutely.
of positive messages and positive examples of good practice. There are so many mistakes I've made in my security career,
Yeah, me too.
and I'm willing to be. Please don't sue me, but I'm willing to be a little bit
All right.
open about that.
Tell me a funny mistake you've made in your security game.
Funny mistake.
'Cause I've got a great one.
Oh, funny mistake. Funny mistake. Oh, I was working at a venue, and he's a friend of mine, actually. So I hope I'm not going to name him. I'll name him in a later episode if he gives me permission to. One of the barmen was regularly into the gym. You know, he wore the tight T-shirt. I was in shape at the time as well. So what we would do sometimes before the shift or at the end of the shift, we'd both get up on the, you know, where the bar opens up. We'd both do dips. Off
Oh,
that,
yeah.
messing around,
Yeah.
you know. God, I couldn't do that now. My shoulder would fall out. I'm working the front door one day, and it's not funny, but it is now. I'm working the front door one day, and this barman and another barman just run to the front door to me through a crowded venue. Dan, come in. I'm like, what's going on? My arm. What's happened? Turns out he's been arm wrestling one of the regulars on the back of the bar while the licensee's upstairs, and obviously he's broken his arm arm wrestling. And I had quite a lot of years in the bank by this point. I'd seen most things, but I'm just like, oh, okay. What do I do? Because I've still got 150, 200 people inside. I think I'll have to. If I can find it, I will. I've got and with his permission, there is a video of this because it was right under CCTV where it happened.
Wow.
But it's my reaction. I was just like, okay. Took him in, But then 10 seconds later, that was probably. It reminded me that it doesn't matter how long you've been in this game, you've not seen everything.
No, absolutely.
You've not seen everything.
Absolutely.
But yeah, no, I'm gone. Go.
Yeah, there's so many, and this is the other thing, right? It's always got to remember as well that you work with some really fun people on the door.
Yes.
And there's so many funny stories.
Yeah.
There's so many fun times and good people because you do become like a brotherhood and sisterhood. You know what I mean? You rely on these guys and girls and you get on the door and you don't take your work, you don't take your home life to work in theory, so you do have a laugh. You've got a good team, but one of the funniest things I ever remember, it wasn't funny at the time, but I mentioned that I worked at the Brass House, and this was the first few weeks of coming over into the industry, and I remember being stood on the front door, and there was 3 of us on the front door, and there's like 7 or 8 inside. It's packed, and someone had put a call out on the radio, so there was an issue at the bar, and the guys they shut the door and ran inside, and they said, "Hold the door," and they ran, and I thought, shit. So I ran. I with them to the bar. I thought, that's what you do, isn't it? The fight, you get in there. So I ran into the door, but it was very, very busy. It probably took about 30 seconds to get through the crowd. And the guy that was running the door on that night, his name was Jeff. He goes, "What the fuck are you doing here?" I said, "You said hold the door." He said, "No." He said, "Hold the door means don't let anyone in, out. Don't let anyone in. What have you done?" I said, "I've locked the door." He said, "Fucking hell, get back." So I went back to the door. Mate, there was like 40 people trying to get out and they're pushing the door. I'd locked the door. It was just inexperience.
Yeah.
But again, you see, they hadn't been briefed. But hold the door. I thought he meant just coming out because all hands on deck and all that. But yeah, I got back and God, you can imagine the debrief in the night. It was no one got hurt and it's just hilarious. But
I funny enough, I actually remember this would have been probably my 3rd or 4th shift on the door. So I'd done events, I'd done retail. So, as a doorman. This was probably my third or fourth shift, and it was on Weymouth Seafront, a club there called Badus.
Right.
And I can't remember what happened. But there was a fight on the street, and one guy assaulted another guy, and all the doormen chased after the perpetrator of this assault down the seafront. Of course, I run after them. I'm 19. These blokes are in their 30s, and after quite a short period of time, I'm noticing that I'm catching up to the bloke. But the guys who I'm worrying with, they're quite far behind me.
Yeah, right.
So I don't know if you remember that scene from Only Fools and Horses.
Yeah.
Where Rodney's chasing the guy, chasing the burglar.
Yeah, yeah.
And then it was nearly like that. And time seemed to stand really still. And it was probably only a few seconds, but my mind was thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do when I've...
Yeah.
Because at this time, the SIA course weren't teaching restraints. And... I was like, what am I going to do when I get there? But I can't, but my ego won't let me back down in front of everyone, so I have to keep running.
Exactly.
And I just remember I caught the bloke, and he turned around and said, okay. As soon as he said that, I was like, thank God for that, because God knows what I would have done. He would have lumped me and then ran. And then, the guys I was working with were like, bloody hell, you can run, because I was quite fast back then, and... you can run. I was like, yeah. And there was the head doorman at the time, who, funny enough, went to school with my dad.
Oh, really? Wow.
So I don't think he was happy with me being there.
No. Imagine.
Who said to me, you should have locked him up. You should have locked him up. Because all I did was just put my arm on it, just hold on to his hand and come on. Because as soon as he said, I give up, he said, you should have locked him up. You could have got really, really hurt. I'm like, I know.
Yeah.
What do you say? Because you're stepping into this macho industry where you feel like you have to prove yourself.
Yeah.
No, you're very aware no one wants to work with you because you're the 19-year-old skinny kid.
Or you could have made him worse. You should have locked him up. Coulda, shoulda, woulda. You may have made him worse.
Maybe.
You may have got out of hand. So
but
you did the right thing.
It was like a deer in headlights. You just run because that's what you ddid.
Yeah.
I didn't expect to I didn't even think I'm going to get to them before these guys do. So yeah, it's so funny because I'm twice that age now.
Yeah. How old are you now?
38.
38.